Hey Johan, so how are you doing today? What kind of day is it over there?
Hi Brandy, sit hier mekaar dit. It's a messed up day.
Yeah,
Striking going on for unrealistic salaries. Of course, in this country, you get salary, but you don't do the work. I mean, take
right.
overstaffed by how many percentages? There are too many people sitting, twiddling their thumbs and getting a salary. They're not earning a salary, they're stealing a salary.
At ESCOM, yeah, and it's failing. I mean, it's on the verge of collapse.
But listen.
Yet it's overstaffed. What the hell are these people doing? Because they're not doing their job, or they don't have the money to do their job because it's been stolen.
You see, the main thing is when you read the Stellenbosch Mafia, you will see where Johan Rupert advised them, do not go in the summer months to the UAE to beg for money. But no, they were clever, they didn't listen. Because the main thing is, going to the UAE, they thought they were going to be clever, but everybody was away on holiday, lying on a yacht somewhere else out in the world. It's because people don't listen. Their arrogance is way out of kilter. I mean, going back to my treason charges, I mean, I'm way not finished with it. I've been in the past week to the Zondo Commission with a copy of the treason charges. And guess what? My initial affidavit, which has got a reference of number 82, has not been attended to. This is while they're working on affidavit number 400. Again, we have the intelligence services messing in. I then went to Justice Mogoeng's case, where I handed in the same copy and said, listen, Judge, you are a prophet and you're an honest Israelite. Please have a look. And this morning, when I'm finished here, I'm going to Shamila Batoy. She's the new head of the National Prosecuting Authority. I mean, she's working with a defunct, useless criminal system, which is run by criminals. Now, how are you going to run a justice system with people such as this?
Right. You know? And it seems like every time there is a good person to come in who is has integrity and is not corrupt, that they end up living through hell. The things that I have read about, in these instances, or they end up murdered. And it's crazy. It's almost impossible for them to clean up the mess because one person can't do it.
Okay, one person can do it. Believe me, one person can do it by being a terror, by never letting up, and by going like hell. You must remember one thing. I'll give an example. I complained to the public protector around 2012, Thuli Madonsela. The personnel told me how officers were so flooded by the intelligence services to counter me. In the end, she wrote me a letter saying, my complaint was, where are our stuff? I want to know what's happening on the so-called investigations. She writes to me and says to me, they have the right to investigate you. Now, you must remember one thing. Thuli Madonsela, who paid for her to attend university? The money men in the country. Thuli Madonsela was, according to some of the evidence in front of the Zondo Commission, part of the engine room of Zuma. Although she later turned on him. Thuli Madonsela was a consultant to the Department of Justice in the late 90s, where she got paid 1.8 million twice. And Jeff Radebe then comes and he says, no, it wasn't like that. He's sure. He vouches for it. Jeff Radebe was the Impimpi who was recruited in prison to spy for the apartheid government. I know his handler. And Jeff Radebe also became the chairperson as the National Conventional Arms Control Committee, who withdrew my permits without due process, without proper investigation.
Right.
Now, interesting enough, we always have this situation. Now, I came across a very interesting piece on Johan van Loffenbach's Facebook site. He said to take somebody down, you create some sort of fake allegation or two.
Right.
They must sound juicy, no evidence required, just some tiny fact to lend credence. Then you take your so-called allegations that are all thumbs up to the authorities, who lap it up and they start with behind-the-scenes rumors. And then they start with a complaint. And this is exactly,
right.
I can testify, this is what happened to me. And then a few leaks. And then the complaint gets confirmed officially, then leaked to journals, and soon enough politicians enter the fray, and then judges. You want to talk to me about the legal system in South Africa functioning? No, it's not functioning. But
no,
I mean, and then he says they litigate you to death. This is the whole thing as described by him is exactly what we have experienced. Of course, people such as Vanessa de Tooy from the NCACC, I mean, the way she went about having our communications intercepted. Then Ronel Gericke from the National Intelligence Service. She was head of the Division for Proliferation. And she and Vanessa were good friends, and they wanted to teach me a lesson.
She did this illegally.
Of course, everything is illegally.
Right.
Listen to me. Everything is illegally. The problem with them is they are trying to bury me in order to get rid of their mistakes and their messes. Now, again,
right,
in all of
won't
this,
come out.
In all of this, there's one big thing standing out: the Freemasons. All of these people that started on this path are all members of the Freemasons. Might be Freemason South African style, but still they are Freemasons. Now remember, I mentioned before that Paul Kruger's family had obtained 500,000 British pounds as a loan from the old ZAR in 1899, which was never repaid. According to information that came to me, the value today of that money is about 500 million rand. Substantial amount. It's over $35 million. And Paul Kruger's family is still today living in Switzerland, being well taken care of.
Switzerland.
Yeah. And Paul Kruger is linked to the Freemasons, along with Cecil John Rhodes. Now people will say, yeah, but you say MI6. Until the Second World War, the British intelligence structures, welcome. The British intelligence structures were quite disorganized. Churchill, during the Second World War, organized it into the various structures, MI6, MI5, etc. But before that, the Freemasons, via the Lords of London, were structuring all information because it was for them about one thing: money. Money, money, money. And then when they have a lot of money, they sit back and see what misery they can cause throughout the world, and it becomes a game to them.
It's funny that you're saying this right at this moment, because right before I got on this call with you, I was actually reading a document about some things going on in Italy right now concerning the Freemasons, and it's just crazy because as an American, I never these things that I'm learning from you guys and like from the stuff that's going on in Italy with the Freemasons, we don't understand it in that way here a lot of time. It's completely different. So yeah, I just read and it's like a major thing happening in Italy with the Freemasons.
Yeah, but in America, the Todd and the Astor families, they are the founders of the Freemasons. Just go and delve in history and you'll find it all. And they're a pervert bunch. I'll give an example. You know, the South African intelligence structures is being run by the right wing, far right wing. There's a guy by the name of Willie Lotter. Willie Lotter apparently has cancer. Interesting. Everybody that's come looking for nonsense with me is suffering now of cancer. Tory Pretorius is suffering of cancer. Erika Gibson, who wrote a lot of nonsense about me in the newspaper, is suffering of cancer. And Willie Lotter is suffering of cancer. Now, Willie Lotter is a mean-spirited, I don't know what you want to call him, troll, which might be a very good description. But in any case, be that as it may, Willie Lotter was caught in the late 1990s with 11 tons of gold concentrate. He was not locked up. He became Sean Abrams at the NPA's personal source. Now, he'd been working with a guy by the name of P.W. Becker, and when the Gaddafi money came on scene, we set out a plan to steal the whole contract and everybody away from him. In Eric Goahid, they had a very willing assistant, because Eric doesn't know which way is right and wrong. Either does it play.
Right.
But everything against me comes from Willie Lotter. Every supposed settlement, Willie Lotter set out to sabotage it. And on the basis of, he said to everybody, if Erasmus gets his money, you don't know what hell you're going to land in. What Willie Lotter doesn't understand, he's just been delaying the inevitable. Now, Willie Lotter...
I'm sorry.
Hey, it's not even spring yet.
So people... it's Texas. This is Texas. Just so people can be clear and understand, you have brought not only treason charges and all kind of other court filings against him, but you also have brought a lawsuit against him. So that's what you're referring to when you say that he's saying if he gets his money, you're going to be in for hell, because you'll have the means to fight them back, because they litigated you to death, pretty much. I mean, after stealing everything that you had. So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear, so people would understand what you were talking about.
Yeah, and they call them South Afrikaners. What low life they are. And they are utter racists. But Willie Lotter sits in the Special Operation Division of the State Security Agency. Now tell me, he's the head of Israel Vision, which is a far right-wing organization. Nobody else counts unless you're a member of the Israel Vision. Whether you're black or white is immaterial. So they are running the intelligence. They are running the intelligence service. You want to tell me South Africa's got a functioning intelligence service? Try me again, please. I mean, it is very clear. Just to give, I've never mentioned this, but in 2014, there was an effort to settle with me for 75 million. Mojo Motau, the ex-head of Defense Intelligence, the general, was chairperson of Arms Corps. They got the money from Absa Merchant Bank. The money was stolen by Mojo Motau and the board of directors of Arms Corps at the time by opening fake accounts. And nobody does a thing. I mean, you will see today, who goes to prison? I mean, Penny Sparrow was found guilty for racism, but everybody else can say what they want, and it's called because it's their culture. My culture is not to curse people and to be rude to them, but it is not the culture of the black man. Believe me, I'm an anthropologist. It is not the culture of a black man, neither the culture of an Arab to be rude to foreigners or to other people or in the environment around you. But this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with all these people going out of their way to steal and to steal and to steal. My attorneys suffered because of this. Karen and Elsha, they suffered because of this. I mean,
Right.
Billy Lauter,
You've told me.
Billy Lauter has done so many things. And it is really, you know, it's not for me to curse them, but I do believe they are accursed. Because it's about money. It's about money and money and money. I mean, ex-President Zuma said, but Siphiwe Nyanda was an agent. Yes, Siphiwe Nyanda was an agent from time to time when he needed money or to get rid of somebody.
So he actually wasn't just one of the old tricks. Because I know that, you know, this was one way that they used to discredit each other, you know, by calling other members of the party spies, whether they were or not. So I didn't know if this was true or not when you know, he said it.
What is true is that Nyanda was, from time to time, a spy for money. But what is equally true is that Nyanda was working for MI6, and still it probably is. And the big thing is, Siphiwe Nyanda was with Mac Maharaj in 1987. Tony and Karimeng, Ivan Pillay, and Pravin Gordhan, when they received 100,000 British pounds from Lord Joel Joffe in the British Lower House at the time. Now, I found this most peculiar because I've never found a Jewish friend who is willing to give his money away. But Joel Joffe gave them 100,000 British pound. He gave them 100,000 British pound for Ops Vula. So in other words, this was basically MI6 in action. Now, in the late 80s, South African special forces were operating in the Zambezi Valley. They would blow up power pylons. Now, South Africa never had the capacity to blow more than 20 pylons in a night, because an electrical pylon has got 4 feet. Then at the top, depends on 1, 2, 3 connections. So you've got to climb up, fix explosives, climb down, fix explosives, and then move away. And then you've got your time, your explosions. But in one night, 100 pylons came down. And it was British secret special air services operating in the Zambezi Valley. Because the Brits wanted to destabilize the Mozambican economy and blame it on the South Africans. Make no mistake. South Africa is but a pawn in the game. People, these idiots see me as a pawn. Yeah?
I was just going to remind anyone that hadn't seen the last video that, you know, Johan comes from an intelligent background, you know, so he's been there, done that, you know, recruited out of the military, you know, back when these agencies were not as they are today. I'll just leave it at that.
You must understand, the one thing that I'm very upset about is that the white people, who knows what is right and wrong, do nothing. They are only looking, interesting enough, for pension. I always say to them, what makes you think you're going to get a pension? You're not going to get your pension, man. The way you're carrying on, you're destroying your pension base. You see, and everything has come, I mean, look at where I've been involved. I've been involved in the first consult report. Nothing has been done. $300 million has gone missing. Thabo Mbeki's been involved. He's been implicated. Moletsi Mbeki, his brother, is directly involved. Ivo Rishikovic. Pagbota from the sidelines. But nobody does anything. Then, I mean, in 29, I did the investigation into the Bombela soccer stadium. In my first paragraph of my original report, I said, the stadium must be built, but Bulalani Nguka must be arrested for fraud and locked up after the stadium has been built. Of course, my report was altered. That paragraph was taken out, and nothing has been done about it. And this is a situation And this is a situation where a bracket that sold for 4,000 rand suddenly rose to 40,000 rand per bracket. So there's so many things that's been going on. I blame de Klerk de Klerk for giving everything away. I mean, you know, in 1917, when the Bolsheviks took over in Russia, it became a strategy. You must neutralize the security forces. You must neutralize the legal system. And this is what is happening in today. It's not so much as that it's a Marxist system. It's a situation that the criminals are benefiting from. And this is what they've done to us. I mean, every day they are making it so difficult for us to survive. It just becomes more and more difficult.
Law-abiding citizens are suffering, and the criminals are just reaping rewards and just living however they want to live with all the money in the world, you know. And because people don't want to break the law, those are the people that suffer, and it should be the opposite. Everything's upside down in South Africa. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah, and you see, nothing works. Nothing works. Everything works to the negative. Everything. It's not being negative. I've been there. I mean, even until today, they are still intercepting my communications. Despite all the proof, I am not the guy that's in the wrong. But this goes about protecting the criminals. It's about the criminals ruling the roost. I mean,
and everyone knows this. I mean, anyone watching this knows this. They have seen, you know, what was done to Philip and Peter and Kalini, you know, just to appease, you know, an angry mob. I mean, it is a huge problem. The whole criminal justice system is broken. I mean, I don't know. It would take a lot to fix this much damage.
And interesting enough, in the justice system, the problem lies not with the black people, it lies with the whites. You know, people say, yeah, since the ANC came to power. No, it's long before that it started out. Start in the 1890s. The only thing is with the ANC, it became accelerated. Because the one thing is, suddenly we've got so many coal companies jumping up. And I said, but how is this possible? Before, there were restrictions on coal and only certain companies got the coal, like the Amcoals, like the Glencores, like the Billitons. And the answer was, oh, but the National Party had hidden it away in the State Departments. So don't think for one moment the National Party were angels. They were not. They were a bunch of thieves, although there were a lot of good people who could make things happen, as they are today.
Right.
But the problem is, you know, I am really standing on my own. Literally, I'm being attacked left, right, center, and it's not visible. It's all on whispers. It's when I enter into conversation with people that I pick these things up. And the people that closest to me have suffered the most. I'm telling you straight, my two attorneys, Elsa Clark and Karen van Eck, they have suffered the most. But there's also a story which we will look into very soon on betrayal and how their systems have been compromised. But the main thing is, people are saying, what about the farm murders? Everything, all this criminality goes down to one thing. It goes down to making the country ungovernable. Farm murders is but one weapon in the arsenal. The other thing is, I mean, President Ramaphosa said there's going to have to be a cutback on civil servants. What does he think is going to happen? Major unrest? Today we have...
They already can't handle the crime or anything else.
Yeah, they cannot handle the crime because everything on my side, doesn't matter what evidence I put forward, the politicians are being manipulated by receiving so-called briefings from so-called intelligence services, which is a bunch of low-life, brain-dead misfits. But they are sitting in the positions and they're holding sway and they are very arrogant. You know?
So what do you think, in your opinion, that it will take to make a change, to change this, to at least bring back some semblance of justice where people can have some kind of hope in the justice system there, that, you know, they can get justice for certain things, like in your case, you know, because I think most everyone that I speak to, they have no faith in or trust in the criminal justice system, in any kind of justice, true justice being served.
Look, the main thing is, unfortunately, they are correct. The problem is that not one attorney or advocate likes something that anybody else can use. Win or lose, they are entitled to their money, which is an aberration.
Right.
There are good people in the system, but they are crowded out by the dogs, by the sharks. And believe me, I'm talking about, I know a lot about what's going on. There's a story about the Incas. The Incas was a very war-mongering tribe. They had one section who won over the whole known world and took over. And after they've taken it over, there was no more war to be had. So they sat. They became shopkeepers and politicians. And all the slaves they conquered were watching for about 70 or 80 years, until the slaves came to a situation where they thought they knew how to run the system. So one day when the Incas became fat and lazy, this crowd staged a coup. They took over, and in no time the Incas disappeared. They imploded because these people thought they could do something. Now today in South Africa you have a similar situation. Ivan Pillay, he became acting commissioner of SARS, the Revenue Service, because of his struggle credentials. Yesterday, Jabu Mabuza was appointed acting CEO at Eskom, while he's also the chairperson. He's got no matric. He used to be a taxi driver.
Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
So tell me now, what is he bringing to the table? Pakamani Khadebe resigned after a year because he thought it's easy to take home something like 8 million rand a year as salary, but you've got to work, firstly. Secondly, you're dealing with criminals who do not care whether they kill you or your family. Throughout all of these structures.
I know, but it's like...
And this is where the problem comes in.
Power grid.
Yeah, correct.
It's that you have to have that. You have to have that to have a functional country, or you're anarchy, murder. There's no water. There's nothing. I would think that these people would be smart enough to at least keep that up and running. And now a taxi driver's in charge.
Yeah.
I have a lot of hope for that.
It does not suit the money men to have a functioning system because you only make money in chaos. And that's all they're after. The rest is all pawns. Go read the works of Alvin Toffler. Go read, you will see. He says the masses are only there to be used as pawns in the game.
Right.
They're not there to be clever. And this is the problem in South Africa. And the whole thing is, from politicians downwards, everybody, the intelligence services has got everybody by the shorts. They know who's been using drugs. They know who's been sleeping with whose wife. I mean, so it's easy to blackmail anybody. South Africa has become a glorified whorehouse. Believe you me? It's become a glorified whorehouse. And the whole thing is...
Sorry.
You know,
I was keeping up with Zuma, his testimony, and I kept thinking, this is a sham. Nothing can come of this, because he has them all by the balls. Excuse me.
Of course.
But
he was the head of ANC intelligence.
So if they reveal anything on him, she reveals everything on them, and they're all screwed. So, I mean, I realized very quickly it was just a show, that they couldn't go after him because they would put themselves in jeopardy of being exposed.
What is going to happen in South Africa? I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa said to Christiana Amanpour, we are going to change. I mean, she was standing there. Wow. Where is Christiana Amanpour today? Saying, why is she silent? She is such a clever journalist. Why doesn't she stand up and say, hey, that is what you said, Mr. President. What is your problem? Why don't you make it happen? Yes, inside the ANC, the problem is got to work with a collective. They've got to decide how to do things. You see, when we go back to the farm murders, why do they take place? And it's very simple. Because people are negligent, firstly. People are easy targets. People do not think how to take action in order to prevent it. In South Africa, we've got a law that says every toilet roll must have 500 sheets to it. Now, if you have that type of petty legislation, people are always looking towards the state. They're always looking towards the state. I cannot look towards the state. I took action for the state. And then I get branded as a so-called criminal until they say there's no case against me. But they've destroyed our business and our lives, and they still continue. ISIS has got 49 camps in South Africa. In conjunction.
I know this.
Yeah, in conjunction with many partners, not just the ANC. Why?
Right.
South Africa is tied into the world financial system. It is so easy to move money.
Right.
And what is happening?
It's a safe haven for ISIS, Hamas, for these terrorist organizations. It's their holiday destination.
Yeah, but what happened now? Hamas has been shown up in America and in Canada. And the minigun was shown to Hamas. Hello, what's going on? What's going on? What is going on? I mean, the state-owned, under Thabo Mbeki, there were 774 state-owned enterprises. Now, under Cyril Ramaphosa, there's 101, of which Armscor, Denel, SAA, Eskom are the big ones. But there's all these other little ones, and all it is, it's a mechanism to siphon money from the state away. They've all got this glorious views of social action and democracy. Listen to me, democracy is a farce. Democracy is a farce because the moment you have to decide by voting, and even the prisoners have the right to vote. I mean, when you go to prison, you have, yes, that is indeed so. When you go to prison, you have no rights. I mean, you took an action which deprived you of your rights. But in South Africa, the prisoners have the right to vote. So what is wrong?
Right.
And you know what?
That way here.
Helen Zille has got a lot to say. And Helen Ziller is not necessarily right and necessarily wrong. Make no mistake. I hope she's now at
Twitter.
At the SA Institute of Race Relations. I hope she exposes a lot of things which she had kept back in the past. The main thing is, if we as South Africans want to survive, we have to do something.
Right.
You know, I'm not advocating anarchy or armed insurrection or anything, but the big thing is listen with an open mind. And this is the problem. People don't listen with an open mind because they're worried about their children. They're worried about how they're going to survive. What they don't understand, everything is under threat. It's not the black people, Brandy. It's not the black people. It is the white people firstly. It is the foreigners. It's British MI6. Listen to me. It's British MI6. Yeah, then you have Mossad, and you have the FSB, and you have SDEC, and you have the BND, and you have the CIA. But it starts with the MI6. It's about the riches of the country, and it's the whole. And it's not only in South Africa, because you see what happens in South Africa. We'll go over to the rest of the world. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Angela Merkel imported 1 million immigrants from Syria into Germany. Why? Why? Let me just ask you why. Can I tell you?
Because she's evil.
Mutti Merkel was working in the kitchen cabinet of Honecker. Honecker, the premier of East Germany. So she was steeped in Marxism, etc. Now she's imported 1 million immigrants, of which many are ISIS. And the interesting thing is in Sweden, when the young girls are accosted on Christmas Eve at public gatherings, the police cover it up.
It's not reported by race. They're not allowed to, they don't even have the statistics. You can't even get the rape statistics based on who is committing the rapes.
Yeah, and let me tell you why. The Swedes were collaborators with the Nazis in the Second World War. And still that backstabbing, underhanded manner of working is still part and parcel today of Sweden. Now let's go back to Merkel. Why did she bring 1 million immigrants into Germany? Putin, and listen to me, Putin is a man who gets things done. Doesn't matter who says what. Doesn't matter what they say about corruption. Putin gets things done. Okay?
Yeah.
But Putin also plans far ahead. This is the one thing about the Russians. They plan decades ahead. What happened in the Second World War with the Maquisards in France? They were fighting behind the lines against the Nazis. They would sabotage the vehicles. They would change the road directions. They would do anything to create havoc behind the lines. And this is the strategy. These immigrants are there to create havoc in case NATO and Russia starts a war. And nobody sees it and nobody asks what the hell is going on. Nobody asks what the hell is going on. You know, the Germans have been sitting back because after the Second World War, after the Marshall Plan, they started living a very, very high quality of life. And the German youth has become problematic in the extreme. And it always starts with liberals. Interesting enough. There's one thing about being conservative and there's another thing about being right-wing. And the big thing is that they are not necessarily mutually inclusive. But the main thing is that it all goes back to how I am being typecast in the state system. Everybody wants to talk to me. Everybody wants to know what I know. I'm not interested in talking to everybody. I can and I do talk to a lot of people. The big thing is, on what I've been saying, I've been vetted so many times. And the last vetting came out a couple of weeks ago. The guy said to me, what you said had been proven to be 100% correct.
Right.
So what is going on?
And you have the proof of it all.
Yes, so when you put anything on your website,
it's not just words.
I gave you lots of documents. You are most welcome to put it there. Because the big thing is South Africa is being torn apart by the legal system per se. And they tell us this is the law. No, it can never be the law. Because most of the judges, especially the white judges, he's normally a substance abuser. Right. He normally used to have 3 mistresses. Takes a bit of time handling everybody. And he normally used to have a massive overdraft with one or other bank. And the banks are so gladly banking the money of the criminals. Right. Remember that? What happened? Why did the euro go so big in finishing today? Why did the euro go so big? When America brought in legislation that you cannot bank $10,000 cash, you had to report it.
Right.
The criminals moved their money into the euro. That's what.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Drugs. How big are drugs in the world? I mean, this comes from Lenin, the opium of the masses.
Huge. Yeah.
Exactly. You yourself have made the point of attacking the people's minds. Don't attack them physically, attack their minds. And this is what has been going on. Willie Lotter and the Freemasons, and specifically the Freemasons in South Africa. There's a guy by the name of Jürgen Kugel. Jürgen Kugel is very close to Zuma. He used to handle all the loans from abroad for the RSA, and he took a commission. Normally a commission would be below 0.25%, but 0.25% on billions makes quite a couple of millions. In any case, Jürgen Kugel is a Freemason, and he made it a point of recruiting people such as the Yami Smiths of the world and Philip Kramers, and drawing them in and giving them protection and making sure they get lots of money, because they then start to control the arms deals. I said we're finishing off, but the big thing is, how do we counter this? Is there somebody in the USA, at the United Nations, who's willing to look into this and say, let us start something? Because South Africa has become a threat, not only to me, but to the whole wide world. There is no control. Right. There is no control in the arms industry, thanks to the Freemasons, because it's all about money.
Right. I mean, they go against everything the rest of the world, besides Russia and China, put into place, just like with Iran, the storage of fuel for Iran, that's against international sanctions. That can actually get you into pretty deep shit, especially where we are with Iran today.
Yeah.
But it's like all the bad actors, they cooperate with all the bad actors of the world.
But let me put this to you on Iran. I have a very soft place for the Iranians and the Jewish. Unless Iran and Israel can cooperate and be the power in the Middle East, there will never be peace. And if those two can cooperate, Saudi Arabia will count for nothing. Believe me? And those two will control the Middle East. Now, although Iran is more aligned with Russia and Israel with the USA, in the end, it's about cooperation. Because you know what? People get tired of war. That is what was interesting about the Al-Qaedas, about the Taliban. After 7 years, they were tired of war. But what did it cost you, the USA? 3.5 billion US dollars per day?
And that doesn't count the lives.
Yeah, but you know what? It is extremely worrying that ISIS has gone quiet. There's a tsunami coming. There's a tsunami coming. And it's going to hit America. And believe me, they're getting their, and believe me, they're getting their training in South Africa.
I know this. This is actually one of the things I've written about in all these times that I've written the White House, is about them training and having safe haven in South Africa. You know, this is a major issue. And if something's not done about it, you're right. It's going to be very bad.
And you see that one other thing is, there is no leadership. Cyril Ramaphosa, they've got him by the shorts. He has still got to manipulate. I mean, putting the blame on ex-President Zuma. Yeah, he's got a lot to answer for. But why did it happen? Why was it allowed to happen? Why was it allowed to happen?
Because they were all in on it.
Exactly. Whether they're white, whether they're black. And that's it for today. Because I'm now really pissed off. So I have to go away.
Well, thank you for talking to me. It's always a pleasure. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Brandy, and the same to you. I think it's time. I think it's your bedtime.
It is my bedtime, so we will speak later.
All right, for sure.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Johan.
Bye-bye.